Hey, just a quick update on how I'm getting along with integrating LYRA starter project with the SneakyKitty Games shooter framework. And yeah, so made some decent progress over the last couple weeks. Apologies for not being able to release more videos. Yeah, super busy lately and just don't have the time to dig in more often than I like. So yeah, you can see that the damage bar on the bottom of the screen is, is there. So that means that there's a certain level of UI progress in terms of getting the UI HUD layers implemented, and some damage and gameplay cues for the firing are implemented, and respawn is implemented. And you can see also that, so if I, kind of walk around, and if I sprint, you can see that I can sprint now, and that's a hold and release sprint, right? Back to normal sprint. So, yeah, sprinting is enabled, as well as a camera mode. So basically, I went through and properly set up the camera mode. So now I can show you that real quick here. If I go back out, if I go back out and we stop play for a second here, I can show you that the issue I was having is that, if the camera mode wasn't set up correctly with the LYRA game camera, I wasn't able to switch camera modes. I would have to rebuild that entire logic. So I realized that even to zoom in for ADS, which is something that I implemented in the ADS gameplay ability, um, I needed to go through and actually set up the camera mode for a first-person camera. So I went back and properly did that. That involved, of course, getting into the back-end code and basically, re-implementing something that I had taken out, which is to say that we're now spawning the camera on the character. And here in the character camera stuff, we're not just spawning the camera and setting a relative location. We're spawning the camera and attaching it to, and giving it a name that's appropriate to the SneakyKitty Games shooter frameworks camera name that you've set up in ShooterPon, and then attaching that to the mesh, to the socket that you want it to be attached to, and then just zeroing out rotation and location so that it just snaps to the socket and inherits that transform. So yeah, so there's those two things, and then a custom camera mode, which is based on the LYRA camera mode. Um, so it's inheriting from LYRA camera mode, and this camera mode allows you to use, instead of being able to, the third-person camera in LYRA uses float curves to push and pull the camera away from or close to the character when you aim and do other things. But instead, I've implemented it so that the camera uses a curve or just a basic blend function to um, to change the field of view. If when you go into basically change the field of view. So I want to be able to change the field of view so that if I go into ADS and I want to change the camera, I can. Um, and so it's a simple class for managing that. Sets up the field of view. Basically, allows you to update the view. So the camera is now updating its position and rotation and all that stuff based on the pivot location and control rotation of the based on the socket. So it's kind of following where that socket is in a sense. And then, we're kind of blending between two fields of view if you want to. So it's get pivot location is looking for the mesh socket's location. So yeah, kind of simple, but it works now, and that means that I have all the benefits of using the LYRA camera. So there's a potential use of a third-person camera if needed, and transitions between cameras can now happen. The death camera is something that is also implemented. So yeah, so basically there's that, and then sprinting was enabled through not your typical kind of way that you might see people do in LYRA, but more kind of um, complex way, let's say, that sets it up for other movement modes besides sprinting. And this is something that I'll link in the the video below. below the video, but it's something that has gone over really, really thoroughly by delgoodie. He's, someone that in the community look to for this series of videos for the character movement component. Really deep, in-depth explanation of how to do that. And then SneakyKitty Games has its own implementation of that same movement logic. And so I'm kind of combining both those things, taking what SneakyKitty Games has and basically creating a custom movement mode. So, LYRA and Unreal Engine have the ability to establish custom movement modes that you can then set up. And what this does is, and I won't go over it here because it's very complex, and it involves a lot of explaining of how the character movement component works. However, it does allow you to reliably, kind of sync client-server movements across the network in a more appropriate way than just doing it in Blueprint or whatever. So I want to make this a robust game, so I ended up implementing this stuff here. So you can see there's quite a bit of code involved. I'll link this videos in the description to a very clear explanation from delgoodie about how all this gets set up and what you can do with setting it up this way. And I'm doing this in the LYRA character movement component rather than breaking out my own character movement component. Largely because I just want to keep moving forward and not have to worry about, inheritance in what's here. But you could just break out your own character movement component and make a child of this and then implement this stuff there. So up to you on what you want to do. This is not quote unquote the right way to do it, but it's a way of moving forward quickly, and I might circle back and then do that later. But for now, I just want to make sure things are moving forward and getting tested out properly. So that's kind of like the major stuff that I have implemented. Let's go back and I'll show you what that means. So why don't I just on sprint, I'll change my camera mode. So in this gameplay ability sprint, I'm casting to the LYRA character movement component because I'm taking the typical character movement component and I'm getting the specific functionality that I've established in LYRA character movement. So when you grab this character movement, I want to make sure that it's from the LYRA character movement component. And then I set up this set sprint state in the character movement component. So it's looking to see if this is set. If this is set, if I, wants to sprint is set as true, then it'll go into the sprint state, which is updating and changing the movement speed on a per tick, and then which is not expensive in the way you do it because of the way that the character movement component is set up with sending compressed flags and bits across the network. So that's why doing it this way is efficient and really sets you up to do it in the correct way. And then I'm changing the camera mode because I want to kind of zoom in a little bit to give a more visual effect of when sprinting, but we'll change this in a second. I'll show you what having the camera mode set up allows you to do. And then we're just waiting for an input release, and then I'm just doing some printing here, and then I'm setting the sprint state back to don't sprint, canceling the ability, ending the ability, so that I can if you don't cancel the ability or end the ability at the end of your ability, then LYRA won't, the gameplay ability system won't know that you ended the ability, so it won't let you restart the ability again. So it's really important, just as a general note, that you cancel or end both, or at least end, if not also cancel the ability at the end of the abilities, when it's intended to kind of end. Okay, so if I take this and I change this back to the third person, this is the one that ships with LYRA, right? Change this camera mode back to third person, compile and play. What we'll see is something a bit different in terms of behavior. So let's get this going here. Let me just shift one out of this. So you saw it happen there, but let me just get these windows so they're a little bit more legible on the screen real quick. Okay, cool. So so basically, I'm running, doing my thing, and then if I go into sprint, so sprint here, you can see I go into a third-person camera mode. That's just because I chose that in my ability to do that. And if I let go, I blend in and out. So you blend in and out of third person pretty seamlessly, and that's the way that the camera mode is really set up, and that's what you get out of the benefit of using the camera mode. Is that you're going to, so if I fire without being I don't have any reticle set up, but if I go into ADS now, I come out of my third person person and go back into a first person, you know, sprint, go back into third person. So this isn't a game mechanic that I'll want to set up in my game. I will maybe want to do a kind of Destiny like zoom out, you know, when you're doing an ability or whatever, but you know, I'm just showing you that when I press shift to sprint, I'm now changing into a third person mode. So yeah, you can see that that works pretty seamlessly. Yeah, so that's kind of, those are the things that I've since implemented in the game so far, and yeah, I'll do a tutorial on this as soon as I can, maybe later today or some point this week, you know, if I can. So anyways, thanks for watching. All right, talk to you soon. Bye.